Howdy ESSM 406. In this lecture, we're going to look at the role of government officials in policymaking. So let's start our discussion under Rothman's framework. In his strategy, the role of government bureaucrats or officials is considered a part of social planning. And as an example, I spoke in a previous video lecture about how government scientists are involved in the social planning for endangered species management. So in this unit, I've actually given you two readings that are associated with this concept, and they're quite different. The first is an article by Forrest Fleischman on government foresters in India. He asks why these foresters make decisions the way they do. His results show that often these government officials aren't basing their decisions on science-based evidence or even on accomplishing goals such as restoring ecosystem services or protecting watersheds. He says these officials may have distorted ideas about the science, or there may not even be appropriate research in place. What he finds is that the foresters often have incentives to make certain kinds of decisions, and those incentives don't necessarily line up with scientifically based policy and action. So this is an example where the social planning strategy that government officials are engaged in may not always lead to good outcomes. Now, the second article that I'm sharing with you is on the same subject area is by Rosemary O'Leary, and she's a distinguished professor at the University of Kansas. This is an older article from the Journal of Public Administration Research and Theory that highlights a really interesting story about the ingenuity of government officials. She shows how these bureaucrats made really good decisions by engaging on social action, even though they were supposed to be engaged on the social planning side. These officials played a very innovative role in finding new ways to solve problems related to environmental regulation. They had to break out of the mold and do a lot of work behind the scenes, including tasks that weren't necessarily quite what they were supposed to be doing, according to their job descriptions. But they saw there was a problem and they wanted to fix it. And so they did the actions they needed to take to change this policy. And I actually think it's pretty unfortunate that sometimes government officials are shown in a negative light. Good governance and strong institutions can really separate a prosperous country from a poor country. The U.S. has strong institutions that rely on government officials who are informed, rational thinkers to keep our policies moving forward in positive directions for the benefit of the majority. It's also important to think about how government workers are a part of your life. If you think about everyone here at Texas A&M works for the state of Texas. If you went to public schools, your teachers, or the police, or parks and wildlife, or the military, or Peace Corps volunteers. Maybe your family, someone in your family is working for the government, or your friends, or maybe this is one of the goals you have for your career. Government service should be seen as a noble calling. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that George Bush Sr. created the George Bush School of Government and Public Service associated with his library here on campus. And if you haven't ever had the chance to visit it, I really encourage you to do so. He had this amazingly interesting career in all different positions within the public service, from the military to the CIA to being an ambassador to being president. And it's one more thing that makes Texas A&M a really unique university that we can all be proud to be associated with. So gig 'em.